So the committee welcomes representatives from the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organisation. Do you have an opening statement? And if so, in the interest of time, would you like to table that for us to incorporate?
I'd be delighted to table it, Senator.
Thank you very much. Well, we'll circulate that and we'll go straight to questions. Senator Hume.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Dr Hilton and others that have joined us. I only have one quick line of questioning, and it's about the GenCost report and the modelling tool that CSIRO uses to estimate the variable renewable integration costs. I know that this has been discussed at length at this committee before, and I don't intend to repeat the questions that have already been asked, but I'd like to understand how long this modelling tool has been used and who it was that created it.
I could pass that one to Dr Mayfield, but
Hello, Dr Mayfield.
There is a level of detail there. You're right.
I can give a little bit of the answer anyway.
Yeah.
So Peter Mayfield, Executive Director for Environment, Energy and Resources. So the particular sort of tools that are used in our GenCost work, they've been around for quite some time.
When you say some time, we're talking 3 years, 5 years, 10 years?
I would argue more of the lot, about 10 years.
10 years.
Maybe longer. I'll get you an exact answer on that later. But they're not new tools, but they do get evolved, and there are a series of different models that are used to do that work. So the most recent one would have been Stable, which looks at firming costs.
So it's Stable?
Stable, so STABLE.
B, sorry, it's late at night.
Yeah, so it's a sub-model that gets used.
Yep.
But overall, there are a number of economic and techno-economic models that get used that combine together to make the result.
And the models are put together by a team? Are they put together by an individual? Is it a department?
We have a team. So we have a techno-economic team, or energy economics team that sit within our energy research unit.
Techno-economic team?
Yep. And so they do quite a range of different studies. So GenCost is only one little piece of their workload, and they do studies around a whole range of other aspects of energy modelling, and they've been doing that for well over a decade.
Okay. There's, on the 24-25 report, on page 23, it indicates that people have requested more detail and background on and more information on this modelling, and I'm wondering whether you can detail for us what types of people or what types of groups have requested this information.
I can't give that to you today, but it will be part of our consultation process so that we can get that for you on notice. So we run a process where we develop a draft report. We then put that out, and we get stakeholder feedback, and we run a series of workshops and engagements which allows them to make comment, which we can respond to before we actually produce a final report. So we keep a listing of everyone who's made contribution to that, what they've asked about and how we've addressed it. So some of those are captured in the beginning of the report. We talk about some of that response, but in terms of a full list, I can get that for you on notice.
I think it would be very interesting to see who it is that's asking for more detail, and not necessarily to contribute to it, but to ideally learn from it and take from it. So there's people out there clearly that would like to understand how this modelling works, because it does influence so many decisions.
Yes, and we get quite a different range of inputs. I think last year, in the last cycle, was about 45 different consultation inputs were made formally.
So I hope we're talking about the same thing. I'm not entirely sure we are. You're talking about people that are inputting through a consultation process, and I'm talking about people that want to see more data or see more modelling and how that works. So is this the same thing, or am I just not speaking science language? Sorry, am I not speaking techno-economic language?
My belief would be that a subset of the people that provide input are looking for the sort of question, or have the sort of questions that you raise,
right?
And others make contributions in terms of their industry experiences to certain parameters and operational modes and things like that. So it's a mixture.
And Senator, I think a number of the models are public, and members of the public can access those models plug in their own data, change assumptions, and look at the consequences of different assumptions to the outcomes of the model. So, one of the things we've really valued with the Gen Cost report is that level of transparency, both in having contributions and critiques in draft, but also allowing people to access the models themselves.
Right. Okay. So my understanding is that this model, or the models, are not suitable tools for other people to use outside of CSIRO.
There's a couple of different analyses that get done. So one is the levelised cost electricity analysis. So as Dr. Hilton says, all that data is made available publicly, and it's a relatively simple calculation, that one. So it is possible to do those independently, and we have provided that information to outside groups.
And all of the assumptions that go into that model are explicit and
yes, all the
transparent?
parameters that you put in there. And that's been one of the points of, I guess, discussion from the various forums as to the range of parameters that are chosen. A lot of them come from the EMO work, but they also come from the consultation process as well.
I suppose what I'm trying to get to is that there is some concern that potentially the models, the outcomes of the models in the Gen Cost report aren't verifiable by experts that would like to be able to verify them, because the inputs into those tools are, it's opaque, it's a black box. And because of that, then the outcome could be questioned or can't be questioned. How does CSIRO respond to that?
In terms of levelised cost of electricity, it's very easy to do the calculation. So in terms of extrapolating future costs, so one of the things that we do is we get capital costs from Oricon. That's done through a process with AEMO, and then we go through a process to try and estimate what they are as you get greater deployment and things like that. So that's a bit more sophisticated, but again, it's something you can see. It's not opaque as such.
Okay. So, I mean, if a person much smarter than I will ever be wanted to have a crack and say, well, let's do some what-if analysis using the Gen Cost model, they can do it?
For LCOEs, yes. They can.
How do they do that?
It's virtually a spreadsheet model.
So literally I could go onto the CSIRO website, I could say, well, what if we change the assumptions here or move this about there, and could come up with...
Yeah, you make changes and assumptions in terms of availability, pricing, things like that, rates of return or interest rates, and you can redo the calculation. So,
and it's all there.
We've walked a number of stakeholders through that process. Very happy to brief you, your colleagues and the office.
Look, I won't be doing it myself. It's well above my pay grade, but it's good to know that it's there, and I think now that it is on the record that it's there, I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that'll have a crack. Maybe I'll come back to you at the next estimates and give you an update as to how it went. Thank you.
It's a good offer though, Senator, because the CSIRO's job is to be able to turn these, complicated things into language that's and conceptually in a way that people like us can grapple with. Like, that's part of the plain speaking science and the industrial application of that, and working with people in the society and the economies. Like, it's a good offer. You should take it.
Look, I couldn't agree with you more, Minister. When my kids want to baffle me and I ask them a question, they just say, if the other way around, if my kids have said, if I don't understand a question and I need to answer it, I should just say, look, it's science, it's the future, you wouldn't understand the new economy, and move on. That's what I should say. And I just hope to God that that's not what CSIRO is saying. I want more than a black box. I want everything to be verifiable.
You'll be right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being here again. My questions are to Professor Sutton. Thank you for attending to clarify the work, Professor Sutton, that CSIRO has been doing. You are Director... I can see you. You are Director of Health and Biosecurity at CSIRO, and you have been since September 2023. You lead the Health and Biosecurity Research Unit, which comprises over 350 scientists and focuses on pandemic preparedness, biosecurity and health innovations. My first question is, CSIRO work advanced genomic surveillance of influenza strains, including next-generation sequencing to decode thousands of genomes and track mutations in avian influenza. This included studies on viral polymerase activity and host immune evasion. Were these studies of literature, in vitro, or using live subjects, rats, for instance?
Senator Roberts, the team that is responsible for that is our team at ACDP, which is within Dr Taylor's remit rather than Professor Sutton's remit, and I'd be happy for Dr Taylor to answer that.
Sure.
Dr Jen Taylor, Executive Director for Future Industries at CSIRO. Thank you for the question, Senator. So just to clarify your question, you're asking about the nature of the sequencing experiment?
Your studies on viral polymerase activity and host immune evasion, were they literature, in vitro, or using live subjects, rats?
Senator, so I think in terms of targeting the virus, I guess that they would...
This is influenza virus?
Yes, yes. So is this an avian influenza virus, Senator?
I don't know. I just know viral polymerase activity.
So it really depends on which virus. If you can specify the virus, we can tell you a little more about how the experiments are done, because obviously different viruses are studied in quite different ways.
Are any studied using literature study only?
Scientists do literature reviews all the time, and there's large amounts of DNA sequence information available on public repositories such as GenBank, and genomicists and bioinformaticians utilise that data as part of their general studies of...
Including CSIRO?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Are any done in vitro by CSIRO?
It depends on the virus.
Are any done by in vitro?
Any viruses, any studies on any viruses done in vitro? Yes.
Thank you. What about using live subjects, animals?
Yes, I think we do use animal models to study certain viruses. That's correct. And but again, it does depend on which virus.
Sure. I appreciate that. I'm not technically sufficient and I haven't got the list of viruses with me. So what real-world situation benefited from this research? For example, that could be COVID or the recent bird flu outbreak. How is this applied in the real world?
So one of the things that I'm proudest of the work at ACDP has been the important monitoring work that they've done with state departments of agriculture around outbreaks of avian influenza, the H7 virus, over the last 18 months. I think the last case was in February, and the team at ACDP was on call for much of that time and were responsible for assisting the state authorities managing those outbreaks in a way that I believe was of immense value to our agricultural sector.
Thank you. Using bioinformatics, CSIRO modelled influenza's antigenic drift, predicting evolutionary paths from over a decade of genomic data. Has this research been used in a real-world situation?
Well, the example I can think of, Senator, is that in our avian influenza work, we do sequence some influenza samples in wild birds, and we know that that's a vector pathway of risk to bring avian influenza H7 into Australia, and so we monitor the viral load in those wild birds to see if we can get an early detection as to whether something will cross into a poultry farm. And so sequencing is used there because we keep a database of the relationship of those sequences in wild birds, and then if we detect, as we did earlier this year, a H7 outbreak or confirm an H7 outbreak in a poultry farm, we can look at the relationships between those sequences and determine whether that likely came from a wild bird or from somewhere else.
Thank you.
And there was a profoundly important moment during the outbreak, I think the second outbreak in Victoria, where two farms linked to the same owner, the same farmer, but quite geographically distant, both came down with an avian influenza outbreak, and the bioinformatic analysis of the DNA sequence from those two isolates showed that they were in fact two different strains that had arisen independently, and therefore there was much less likelihood of there having been bird-to-bird spread between the two farms.
Thank you.
And that was profoundly important in the way the Department of Agriculture then managed the outbreak. So a great example of where sophisticated bioinformatic and genomic analysis using DNA sequence generated by the ACDP and comparing it with data online using bioinformatics had a major positive impact for our agricultural sector.
Thank you. In 2020, the CSIRO conducted preclinical testing of 2 candidate vaccines, including Oxford AstraZeneca, in animal models like ferrets, funded by CEPI. And I note ferrets are mentioned again on your website in 2022 research around Vaxzevria. Was the animal experimentation conducted by the CSIRO, or did you use work done elsewhere?
Thank you for the question, Senator. The animal work done in ferrets was conducted at our Geelong facility in the Australian Centre for Disease Preparedness.
Thank you. What happened to the ferrets when CSIRO finished with them?
As per normal protocols under our regulations, they were humanely euthanized.
Thank you. How many times has the CSIRO used animals for testing in the last 5 years, and how frequently did the CSIRO destroy the subject afterward?
I'll take that on notice, Senator.
Thank you. Does anyone know the answer in the room?
No, that would not be a detail we could give you an accurate answer on. It requires us to go back and look at large numbers of experiments over that 5-year period.
Thank you. Your website mentions the work you did on the Hendra virus. I think it's Zoetis marketed a vaccine for Hendra called Equivac. Was the CSIRO involved in the development of Equivac actively or through Zoetis using your work?
My understanding is, and again, I will give you this notice, this answer on notice. But my understanding is CSIRO was essential to the management of the initial Hendra virus outbreaks in Queensland and northern New South Wales, and then on the understanding of the virus and the development of the vaccine. But I will give you a detailed answer on notice.
Thank you. How much did you charge Zoetis, and are you still involved in Equivac adverse event monitoring?
I'll take that question on notice, Senator.
Thank you. My questions now go to pandemic preparedness. This is the Australian...
We're off the horses and ferrets now, Senator Roberts.
Yes, we're off the... And the
Senator
rats
Roberts,
and the birds.
You've got 3 minutes, and we've got 2 other senators seeking
You're now going to move on to the main
we'll be
event.
as quick as we can because we are finishing at 7.
The Australian Health Management Plan for pandemic influenza was developed over 10 years, concluding in 2019, just in time for COVID, but it wasn't used. It was binned. As your department is pandemic preparedness, Professor Sutton, are you working on updating this plan and correcting whatever reason caused it not to be used?
Again, Senator, Professor Sutton's not responsible for the ACDP, which is Centre for Pandemic Preparedness. Professor Sutton is responsible for our research unit named Health and Biosecurity.
Does the CSIRO handle live viruses? Your achievement page mentions Lissa virus, including rabies and Ebola, for example. If you have live viruses, which ones do you have?
So we back to horses and weasels and ferrets?
Just viruses.
Yes, we hold a number...
I treat this pretty seriously.
So do I, Senator.
Good.
Absolutely.
I'm trying, Senator.
Senator, so I just want to make sure we're going back to your first line of questions.
I'm just going through whether or not you handle live viruses.
Yes, I think we established that, and yes, we do handle live viruses.
Thank you. Can you assure the committee that CSIRO will not slip up in the way the Wuhan Institute of Virology did in the escape for their Frankenstein COVID experiment?
I would not characterise that in that way. CSIRO takes its responsibility for biosecurity exceptionally seriously in all of its facilities and works closely with regulators to ensure that we maintain the highest standards.
So you can give me assurance that it won't escape? Live viruses won't escape?
What won't escape?
Live
live viruses? Yeah, I will give you assurance that we work assiduously to maintain the highest standards of biosecurity as an organisation across our sites.
Highest standards. Can you give me an assurance that it won't escape?
Senator, we maintain our facility to the highest standards of biosecurity.
Can you give me an assurance it won't escape?
Senator, if I could add, the Australian Centre for Disease Preparedness is one of 3 facilities in the world that has the highest biocontainment. It is quite unique in its capabilities. Its box-in-a-box design means that even if the facility fails, if electricity fails, there are triple redundancies in the system, and it is world-renowned for its secure capabilities, and that is why we handle high-consequence live viruses there, and that's its purpose. And it's done that for 40 years without a biosecurity breach.
Obviously, you won't give me an ironclad guarantee, but that's fine. In Professor Sutton's podcast interview, my last question, conducted recently, he made the statement that the government could consider not introducing the intrusive COVID social restrictions, lockdowns for instance. Is his opinion based on the work you have done at CSIRO, or could you expand on what aspects of these social restrictions should be reconsidered? And if Professor Sutton can't answer it, perhaps you could do it.
I think that would be one that Professor Sutton could shed light on to the interview.
He's been champing at the bit to respond.
Thanks, Senator Roberts. Look, that reflection was really based on the fact that it's a matter for future governments as to the policy settings in response to any future pandemic. And it's not for me to say what those settings could be, but I can certainly imagine a future in which policy decisions could be less restrictive than we've experienced historically.
Thank you very much. See, that wasn't so difficult.
Thank you, Senator. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for your rapid-fire approach, Senator Roberts.
Unbridled enthusiasm.
Senator Pocock, we've also got Senator Whish-Wilson on the phone, so if we can just restrict to 5 minutes, I'd highly appreciate it so we can accommodate everyone.
In best endeavours, Chair. Thank you. Just wanted to ask about budget. In Table 3.1 on page 114 of the portfolio budget statement, it shows a $176 million reduction in employee benefits between this financial year and the next. Dr. Hilton, I'm interested if you can tell us how many staff positions this will translate to and over what time frame.
I'll pass the detailed financial question to Mr Munyard, our Chief Operating Officer.
Thank you.
Tom Munyard, Chief Operating Officer. Senator, for future years we're working through our budget planning now, and we've begun a research portfolio review that we could go into greater detail for you. In the last financial year we saw a 9.4% reduction of headcount, and so far in the current financial year we've seen a 3.3% reduction in headcount. For last year's reduction, we'll expect that's a part-year effect, and we'll expect the full-year impact of that reduction to come in this year and next, and vice versa, and same for the reduction that we've seen so far this year. So, as I said at the start, we're working through our budget planning at the moment for next year and beyond in order to be able to give a definitive answer in relation to that.
Okay. What proportion of the savings in employee benefits will come from non-renewal of contracts versus redundancies?
Again, we're working through the budget planning for that.
Maybe for the 9% and 3%, do you have that?
I don't have the exact split of that. If I can tell you, there was around... so that headcount reduction is 818 in total. If I can just try and find my...
And what saving does that amount to?
818. In terms of labour reduction overall, we would expect that to be around $120 million, I think.
And you're looking at a further $176 million next financial year.
Again, we're anticipating
Wow.
doing our budget planning, but
Yes.
I will say in the 24-25 year that you're starting as a base, there was a redundancy provision included in those employee expenses, so that would have to be removed from that figure as well, and therefore I can't. That's why I can't give you a definitive
So I understand
answer.
there's a lot of work to do, but we're sort of roughly talking about 1,000 employees to reach that. I mean, your budget is being reduced by $176 million.
We've reduced by 818 to date, which is a large proportion of that saving to date. And we'll work through the budget planning for the remaining
Senator,
years.
Perhaps to give you some context, the reduction in labour over the last 18 months has been partly in response to the ending of the COVID safety measure, and the organisation has tackled that in a couple of different ways. The first was we looked at our non-research part of our business and could see some opportunities for simplification of what we do. And I want to acknowledge the impact that that's had on staff. That is not an easy process. We also ask our research units to manage their project flow, and that is both appropriation-funded projects and projects co-funded with external revenue. And that's also led to some reductions in non-indefinite staff, so term ends, contract ends, and that's just a normal part of kind of project management and the ebb and flow of budgets. We do have some challenging sustainability issues as an organisation. The value of the appropriation has not kept up with the cost of doing science, and we have some legacy property issues that need investment in order that we maintain safe, fit for purpose and, where appropriate and possible, cutting-edge facilities. The ACDP is a good example of that. So we're provisioning funds to enable us to begin the renovation of that facility. It celebrates its 40th anniversary this year. That is 10 years past the midlife refit, and it's really important that we invest in that national facility, and that really is a microcosm for CSIRO's challenges.
Thank you. Minister, I've had some work done by the Parliamentary Library and want to table this. And given that per capita investment in the CSIRO is now less than half of what it was in the 1980s and has fallen by 87.5% as a percentage of GDP, how can Australians have confidence that the organisation is properly resourced to meet national science challenges when we're hearing about these sorts of layoffs, challenges with facilities and declining funding?
Well, we've had this discussion, of course, a little bit offline, and I think it's fair to say that while the government asserts that nominal funding hasn't changed over that period, of course you will assert that in real terms that's a different story, which is what I haven't seen your Parliamentary Library, the work of the Parliamentary Library on this question. And I do just say that there is a very substantial investment from the Commonwealth Government into the CSIRO. It is
where?
Well, it's a substantial annual contribution.
Declining
to our national science institution. I appreciate your point about the difference between nominal and real contributions, but I just say it is a significant contribution to an important national science institution. I expect the management of the CSIRO to work with the staff of the CSIRO to make sure that the organisation is on a sustainable budget footing, and that work is going on. Officials have described some of that to you. They'll be very happy to answer further questions. I also want to make sure, as the Minister responsible for science in the Commonwealth Government, that the CSIRO is continuing to evolve its approach to making sure that its programs of effort are in line with the national science priorities of the country and what the country needs in order to solve the big national challenges in front of us. That is the challenge of leadership in this organisation. It is not the only place that research is done in Australia, and of course you know that the Strategic Examination of Research and Development will conclude its work on behalf of the government towards the end of this year. I'm watching closely and working closely with the leadership of the CSIRO on their work, watching closely and working closely with the leadership of the Research and Development Review and looking forward to making sure that we've got not just a national science institution that is budget sustainable and directed in the right way, but also that we've got a national research and development capability, public and private, state and Commonwealth, that serves the country's interests well.
Thank you.
We've got 4 minutes till close.
Question?
A quick one, and then we'll try and get Senator Wishworth.
Minister, I guess I'm dismayed that under the Labor government we're seeing CSIRO having to shed 1,000 jobs. I just want that to be on the record. Dr Hilton, I have one final quick question on CSIRO Ginninderra. You talked about some of the challenges of getting money to invest in other important sites. I'm interested, at what point did the sale of the Ginninderra site go from the whole thing to just a portion of it?
I'll hand that one to Mr Munyon. who's in charge of the sale.
So through our due diligence process, we liaised with a number of stakeholders, including the ACT government.
I'm gonna get. Is there a date?
It was when we did that due diligence exercise in 2021. We made the decision back then to divest Ginninderra East in order to maximise the return to the Commonwealth.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Senator Whish-Wilson, we have 2 minutes. If you can get in a quick question, and obviously you are welcome to put other questions on notice.
I don't think that's fair, Chair. I think I need at least 5 minutes, like the other senators got. I'll be as quick as I can, and I'll put a heap of questions on notice. Could I just actually follow up on a theme that Senator Roberts was asking? Is CSIRO or anyone from the ACDB on the Noyena in its voyage to Heard and McDonald Island at the moment?
Senator, I'll have to take that on notice. I'm sorry.
Yeah, particularly interested on the H5N1, which is very likely to be on the island. Are you aware, have you been providing any advice to the Australian Antarctic Division around protocols, especially bringing any, I suppose, denatured samples, other things back from the trip?
We'll take that on notice.
Okay. Could I ask the Minister, there's also been some reporting recently around a review of the research integrity of the scientific system by the ARC, Uni Australia and the NHMRC. Are you aware when that review is going to be finished?
No, I'm not, Senator. Did you say NHMRC? It's a health question. It's a health question, Senator. I don't know if I can. I'm very happy to see if we can find out at the office level and let your office know.
Great. Well, my question, I suppose, was to Dr. Hilton. You've been quoted in the media as an advocate calling for reform, in particular an independent scientific watchdog. Can you tell us why you think that's important in Australia at the moment?
I can tell you why I think it's important generally that there is independent oversight of ethics and integrity issues. I think that independent oversight provides the public confidence
in the scientific method and the work of CSIRO and other scientists.
Yes.
Yeah. So, are you aware of any movement within government to look at this as a policy? Have you provided any advice?
I think that's a question for government.
I've asked you, have you provided any advice to the government?
No, I have not.
That's not a question for the government, it's a question to you.
No, I have not.
No, you haven't. Okay. I'll put the other questions, Chair, on notice, but could I just ask one last question? Just something I've asked at previous estimates. Are you processing, or is CSIRO processing any new work streams with the metals company related to deep sea mining?
That's a question, I think, for Dr. Mayfield.
Yeah. So, Senator, you'd probably be aware that we've completed the previously contracted work with the metals company. That concluded in June of this year, and reports have been made public. We have no further contracted work with them and have no intention for any further work.
Great, no worries. I'll put my other questions on notice, Chair. Thanks for allowing me to dial in.
Thank you very much, Senator Whish-Wilson. So with that, we are finished all questions for today. Just very quickly, Senator David Pocock had some documents to table related to CSIRO funding methods, and also I'd seek to table the opening statement from the Department of Treasury Housing Group from yesterday. So that concludes today's hearings. I would like to thank all of my colleagues for their diligent work in helping me keep onto the agenda on time, including the Deputy Chair and all colleagues who attended over the last couple of days, Hansard, Production and the Secretariat. This committee's consideration of the 2025-2026 Supplementary Budget Estimates will resume at a date to be fixed. Thank you, everyone.
Well chaired. Well chaired, indeed.